5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hibiscus has not been a traditional crop of Uganda. Hibiscus was mostly in Egypt, Sudan. Long ago, we had a farm raiser here who was Sudanese. He actually brought those seeds. And the reason they landed in Chireka is because the first seeds were planted in Nalia. There's a place called Nalia Magonja, near the river, near Quality Supermarket. That's where it all started. So it is unfortunate he has passed on, but he would have been happy to know how far the hibiscus has gone.
The number of growers supplying the raw material to processors has expanded as a result of the rise in hibiscus product consumption. In Tororo, Palisa, Arua, Luero, Nakaseke, Noya, Gulu and Kasese, more than 400 farmers have been organized. According to Regina Nakayenga, there has been prevailing challenges amongst hibiscus farmers and processors, especially during the harvest season. To solve such challenges, harvester pipes and solar dryers have been introduced to enable deliver clean flowers to processors, which are expected to increase production capacity from the current 5 to 10 tons annually to 36 tons annually.
What we have done is to ensure that the production of hibiscus is boosted. What we found out as we were dealing in hibiscus was that most of the farmers don't want to grow hibiscus because they lose it at the time of harvest. Most of the hibiscus grown is not properly harvested because they use the hands, the fingers, and it takes them quite a long time, so that by the time the harvest is midway, nearly the flowers are overgrown. So we introduced the pipes, hibiscus harvesting pipes, to help them do the work easier.
Uganda's processed agricultural products also have a high export potential, where the export basket has been shifting to increased value addition, and with new technologies in the agro-processing sector, manufacturers have developed and launched the hibiscus tea bags to ease work for consumers and address market needs among young adult professionals.
To some of the patients could not do that because it was difficult to say, take 1 teaspoon. When you scoop a teaspoon, it can be 6 grams. And the sizes of the teaspoons vary. But this time around with the tea bag, that sachet is measured at 2 grams. So a doctor, any person can say, take 1 tea bag times 2 or times 3 according to the needs of the person.
Trade agreements offer important opportunities for Uganda's agro-processing industry. With the booming entrepreneurship skills in the country, government has been urged to support local businesses.
I really want to be a successful entrepreneur. I don't know many entrepreneurs who did it in a sprint, that you do it and today and tomorrow you are there. Success through entrepreneurship is a marathon.
Because when that money is withdrawn, that's the end of your business. You know, you need to be able to go out there onto the street, into the gutters, into the dungeons. That's where the business is. That is what tests you as an entrepreneur, and I want to thank you because you have been there. You are in there.
Agro-processing is a key component of Uganda's manufacturing sector. It accounts for almost 70% of total manufacturing output, while manufacturing accounted for approximately 8% of the country's GDP over the last decade. Agro-processing, as a subsector of manufacturing, holds vast potential for inclusive structural transformation. By adding value to small and medium farmers' agricultural produce, agro-processing can help increase revenues from farming production and drive employment growth.
The guest of honor for this economic summit, Honorable Thomas Tayebwa, admits the difficulty in the nation's human resources, thus the need to increase concentration on enhancing people's skills and looking at non-tariff barriers in order to increase production.
In terms of human resources, so that you know you appoint a Ugandan because their character is based on this and they are able to do a discipline. We are also looking at non-tariff barriers, especially within the East African community. As a parliament, we are trying to see how best we can work with government to remove all these non-tariff barriers.
The Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Finance and Economic Development urges that the economy has remained resilient despite the various trade-offs and it being at crossroads for choosing the most plausible mechanism to keep the economy alive.
Number one, promoting growth versus containing supply-side inflation. Should we promote growth or should we first arrest inflation? That's a trade-off we had to make. Number two, fiscal support versus debt sustainability. Allowing more pass-through effect of the international prices to the domestic prices. And number three, credit growth versus financial stability risk, particularly increased non-performing loans.
Although we were facing a number of domestic and global shocks from Ukraine and Russia war, climate change effects, and to the now Ebola epidemic, Sarah Virete, a governance expert, says massive administrative costs and corruption cannot stabilize the economy.
There is less money borrowed that goes into productivity. If we don't improve citizens' productivity in a deliberate manner, how do we grow exports? If we don't cut down our public expenditure, for example, and budget priorities, because if you take a quick scan through the budget, you look at our expenditures, yes, 29% goes to human development, human capital development, but how about the other costs? What is the cost of our public administration? The number of MPs, that is about 556 MPs. We have 180 local authorities, that's districts and municipalities. We have 81 cabinet ministers. We have more than 122 presidential advisors. We have several MDS that we are trying to rationalize. And all this cost, most of this money is borrowed.
Kabayo Stephen, the CEO of Alpha Capital, suggests that to address private sector areas, government can issue promissory notes to those it owes money so that they can present them to the banks and the Uganda Revenue Authority.
But if we continue with that imbalance, we will not get out of this. Sort of running around and trying to manage our debt numbers. So revenue imbalance is a major challenge.
According to the World Bank, the outlook for Uganda is now one slower GDP growth with increased vulnerabilities, including household incomes and food security. Rona Nahabwe, SMART24 TV, Business Today.
It is an electronic register. You don't need to come to your RSB for you to register. You just need to sit in your office, get a laptop, have internet. It can be a desktop. It's not a must, it should be a laptop. A desktop, even a phone these days you can access.
To enhance knowledge and awareness about the security interest in movable property registry system, stakeholders that include money lenders, financial institutions, microfinance businesses, and other financial providers regulated by the Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority have been empowered on the use of this system with the aim of ensuring financial inclusion, which is in line with the NDP3.
Today we had a training for money lenders and Tier 4 non-deposit taking institutions. The reason we are concentrating on these financial providers is so that we allow the businesses that we register to access capital. The biggest problem of most businesses and why most of them go down before their third birthday is because they do not have access to capital. Even when they do, the financial institutions on the other end prefer fixed assets like land and building. Now, The smaller businesses, the MSMEs, do not have those kinds of assets, but they have the option of getting access to capital using the movable property they have. Most of them have machinery, they have stock, they have agricultural products, they have intellectual property that they can use as collateral to access small capital to capitalize their businesses. So we believe by skilling the money lenders to be able to allow those kinds of properties as collateral will enable the smaller businesses to be able to get money.
By fostering legitimacy and a sense of trust among members and clients, the Tier 4 Microfinance Institutions and Money Lenders Act makes it easier for the microfinance sector to support social and economic growth.
We have licensed over 200 non-deposit-taking microfinance institutions.
One of the people who benefited from this training, Pascal Niwebiona, thinks that this technique is extremely pertinent to the current difficult economic conditions and will help a lot of people meet both their personal and professional demands.
We have had a very wonderful training on this simple technology, which enables us to register our security interests in the various properties that our borrowers may come with. To me, I find it very relevant because at least our security interests will be registered. We are guaranteed that we will not make a loss whenever we lend. And even these funny clients who may want to use the same collateral in various areas, in various institutions, at least we are sure we'll always have the first call. In this country and age and this economy, you can't afford to live without credit, either for business expansion, either for life saving, either for fees. People borrow for various reasons. So this having various forms of collateral which are acceptable by the lending institutions broadens the scope for the borrowers and also broadens our scope for business.
The major cause of gender-based violence is around poverty. There is no money in the houses. People fight for property, spoons and forks and everything, but we think that if we deal with poverty, definitely these cases are likely to reduce.
He urged the government to put in a lot of effort, particularly in influencing people's attitudes, because problems can always be resolved without hurting anyone.
Mindsets change. Children don't go to school, not because there are no schools, but children feel that children can do other things instead of going to school. But also men, girls and boys and women to understand that you can settle differences by not killing each other. So basically that's what we are talking about, where money should be going.
Mukunda contends that despite the nation's debt reaching $80 trillion, money to prevent gender-based violence should be taken into consideration by the government.
Yes, the money is not enough, but I think it's a question of situating ourselves and ensuring that we can be able to have an idea very well packaged and sellable politically. And if we cannot do that, I can tell you, even if we have the best idea, it's not going to be funded. So ensuring that we package our messages very well. One of the things I have recommended, for example, is that right now we have the National Budget Framework paper. Do we have these gender-based violence issues in the National Budget Framework paper? Do we have a national plan of action for the GBV, which we can all ensure that it is in the budget? So these are some of the critical elements that we need to be able to look at.
However, other district leaders have also added their voices, saying that gender-based violence needs a separate budget.
It is not that it is the local governments that are going to raise the resources. What government needs from us as local government leaders is to ensure that we have a code to that effect that is tagged to GBV. And of course you are aware that we are interdependent on government for us to get resources to implement some of these activities. We get money from government. So they just want us as leaders to drive tagging to GBV such that government can plan in advance for the activities of fighting against GBV.
This is a very critical matter in our country. And for Karenga district, we do not have a specific budget coming directly from government. Actually, what is there is little. Much of the help we get for GBV is coming from our partners. I know that we have a challenge of funding, but from the little that we have, the government has, they should be able to give us some money at districts, to community-based services departments, who should be able to sensitize the communities together with the political leaders about gender-based violence, such that
The phrase environmental, social and governance (ESG) refers to a company's corporate financial interests, which primarily center on ethical and sustainable outcomes. Capital markets use ESG to evaluate organizations and determine future financial performance. It brings awareness to different climate issues that are occurring and encourages businesses to adopt practices and policies that are better for the environment.
Sustainable development presupposes that there is significant and also long-term development and growth. Sustainable development presupposes that there is acceleration and consolidation and also expansion of gains in the business and industrial world. So there is sustainable development. There is value being created every day and all the time and everywhere. The roles that we play to maintain loyalty and duty of care among the people. What are the policies that we put in place to make sure that we have got an organized way in which to create sustainable development? So there's transparency in communication. There's a lot of information available and data to everybody. That's governance. There's also a degree of etiquette and good manners, and also caring for each other, connecting with other people and so on, especially using technology.
Environmental and social responsibility means the company's commitment to taking part in sustainable economic development in order to improve the quality of life and environment.
Where are we standing in regard to taking care of the social aspect? A simple thing. Let's even just start with ourselves back in your home. Have we asked ourselves whether the households that we have, are we paying them the minimum wage they are supposed to be paid? Because this is someone who takes care of your home, which has a lot. This is someone who looks after your children, but are you paying them what they desire to be paid? Hence the S in the ESG. We look at the environment, we talk about Mother Earth. 2 weeks ago, at COP27 in Egypt, they were talking about climate action. As we are here, or as companies, have we taken care of Mother Earth, hence the planet, or are we degrading? We know that in Kenya right now they're talking about drought. It's very hot. Maybe, now that's why I began by explaining the definition of sustainability, taking care of the needs of today.
Environmental, social and governance (ESG) and Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) share a lot in common, but the major aim of the two projects is to have a better world that is economically, socially and politically stable.
Systems, life on land. You are looking at the trees, forest, animals, birds, etc. living in all these land and so of course. And then life underwater. You have the water, you have the fish and the other organisms which live in water. And all of them must coexist. So that's environment. And it's touched and it's included in the SDGs goals I have talked about. Then you have social. Social transformation we usually talk about includes goal number 1, elimination of poverty. The elimination of hunger is goal number 2. We are talking of well-being of human beings because we are talking of people, and people who must be healthy, must be well in whatever they are doing. That is actually social.
The coexistence and coordination of ESG considerations with the SDGs can expedite corporate contribution within the broader space of the global goals, and that privilege is almost in the investors' hands.
SMART24, driving business.